Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Gamer Weekly. With me today is William from Somewhat Software. Thank you so much for being on the show and being very patient with me.
It's a pleasure. Don't worry about that. We've had technical difficulties before the recording.
uh, so, anyone out there, if you ever plug in your PS4 controller to your computer and for some reason OBS isn't picking up your audio, it's because it's trying to pick up the controller for some fucking reason. Who knows? I don't know. So, but we are good. So, William, thank you so much for coming onto the show. And I guess to start off with, the way that I found your games was from that giant itch bundle that, from recording now, I think is now officially done. They raised like $7 million, something like that. So
Yeah, $7.5 million, I think.
it,
That is insane.
and it was like 1,000 games, something like that. A lot of games that I'd never heard of before. And then I actually ended up playing two of your games back to back at like midnight because I was like, I want something scary, but I want something that's not too terribly long either. And your games fit perfectly on that because I believe Please and then Please Follow all together was about 40 minutes. And it
Just
was
about, yeah.
and it was just scary enough to go like, I want to know what happens, but I'm also like afraid I'm going to have scary dreams from this. But I actually really liked the aesthetic because it's the
Thank you. You got scared.
I really enjoyed the old school PlayStation 1 aesthetic, which I never realized that was something that was ever going to be a thing that people were going to get nostalgic for, was like bad graphics. I wouldn't even
Well,
say they have a charm to them.
yeah. Well, there's this saying. I can't really attribute it correctly, but it's about how any technology will be remembered for its imperfections, for its failures, more than for its successes. So you remember the VHS because it's grainy and there's scan lines and it's not perfect. You remember the old film reels because there's hairs, there's lots of dusts and everything. So yeah, this is what we wanna see if we wanna go low poly in a video game. Yeah.
And there's like a whole community that I've noticed too for this uh, horror PS1. I guess a lot of people are trying to go for that almost like Blair Witch aesthetic thing where it's here's this lost game and people don't know if it's a real thing or not. So you're actually heavily involved in a community of haunted PS1 game people. I don't know if you guys have a
That
name for your
is Yes,
community.
that is correct. It is the name. It's a
Oh,
haunted
okay.
PS1. Um, it's been an initiative by Brogan Hackett, which is a dev in Ireland. I hope I'm correct. I don't want to say like the wrong Scots, maybe. No, I think it's Ireland. She's Irish, and and so it's been like a common flag for a lot of devs that were already working in that low poly style, working horror games, because horror games benefit a lot from the imperfections of the PSX aesthetics, I think. Because, if you can't read the screen properly, if you can't understand like 100% what's happening, there's a scary part that comes from the incomprehension of the difficulty of decoding what's happening on screen.
And I feel like with a lot of those horror PS1 inspired games, there's a lot more detail to the overall atmosphere of the game. Whereas I feel like a lot of horror games now are just depending on making it as grotesque looking as possible and making it to where it's a lot of jump scares, which I mean, I think that jump scares do have their place in horror. I'm not necessarily saying they're the best form of horror, but it's always subjective when it comes to something like that. But uh, how do you create a low poly atmosphere for a PS1 style game? Like what is important to you when you're going into making these kind of games?
Well, I think we. I need to be aware of that the end result is going to be a representation of what it's supposed to be, but not what it's supposed to be. Like it's don't want to pitch around like the big words, but like the idea of a simulacra being like uh, it's like when you tell a story to somebody and then you tell it like you lived it, but it's not exactly what happened. It's never exactly what happened. It's you tell it from your side and from what you remember, like the details that spoke to you at that moment. So the game needs to reflect that. The game needs to be like the sort of format where somebody's telling you the story of what happened, and then the details are imperfect, the details are missing, but the details that are there are really evocative. So you have like small textures for your for your walls, for everything, and so those textures needs to convey that it is a wall, it is a painted wall, so there's a little bit of texture but not too much. It's just the color that's right there because you remember the color but you won't remember the texture necessarily in a real place, stuff like that. So it's just uh, of course, the idea is to reduce everything. The low poly aesthetic is just destroy your models until they're like as simple as possible, but they still keep the idea of what they are. So yeah, so like you make like you model a phone like an old desktop phone. It's just a square, but it's got enough detail so you're like, oh yeah, that's the phone I used to have when I was living in my parents in the late 90s. So nobody else has
Flip
like
phone.
landline phone now, but it's like, yeah, no. When we had those, they look like that. So yeah, so you need to go for the universal detail in everything. But it's not. I say that it's not even a conscious thing. It's just you do you do whatever, but it ends up being this. It ends up representing the universal nature of the thing that you're representing because it has been simplified beyond the initial recognition.
So when you started making these kind of games, was that what you wanted to make intentionally, or was it something that you started seeing other people do it, and you were like, I kind of want to see my game to go in more of maybe this direction instead of whatever you were doing before? Like, were you making like a platformer or something, or was it always horror in your mind?
The first game I've ever done was on RPG Maker 95, which is an old program because I'm an old person. So and yeah, no, so and that was a product of you know what was interesting to me at the time. So like I was doing like some sort of anime inspired like paranormal investigators stuff. That game is lost to time though; it's not available anywhere. And eventually, I gave up on making games for a lot of years. I tried my hands at other art forms. And then when I came back to games, it's because I discovered all this universe of YouTubers playing indie games like John Wolf and Mr. Craven and RPG Minx and all that click right there. And they were playing games that I've never heard of. They were short games, they were like horror games and games that had like an incredible aesthetic. And like I would say two of the creators that really caught my like put my put my imagination back into like its flaming modes is just I discovered like Kitty Horror Show, who made Anatomy, which is a very simplistic looking game. It is very effective at what it does. It's a haunted house story. I can't say more than that. You need to play it. It's like $2.99, maybe $1.99. I can't remember the price, but it's well worth it. And it's a game that's gonna live with you like long after you've done playing it. And the other creator would be Puppet Combo, which is well known in the micro indie horror scene. He makes those slasher movies based games. He made Babysitter Bloodbath. He made Power Drill Massacre, and Power Drill Massacre is to me the equivalent of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the movie. Like that movie occupied my brain for a long time after I've seen it, and Power Drill Massacre did the same to me. Like it's a game I don't want to play too often because it hurts my soul because it's scary and it's a disturbing
Right.
game.
Yeah.
and so and those two creators were affecting the low poly aesthetic in different ways. Kitty Horror Show doesn't go for the PSX authentic like graphics. Puppet Combo does though a little bit more. He looks more for the authentic PS1 feel, but they were both like simplistic graphics, and I was like, I understand that. I understand how to do that, like on a technical level. It's like I can do that. So I got Unity because this is what those guys were using, and I started working on my own stuff. And eventually, I made my first game, which is not a PS1 aesthetic game. It's called I Make Saints. It is, however, a low poly style, sort of. It was made with what I could do at the time. All of my games are done with what I can do at the time I made
Yeah.
them. You
I
can
worked
actually
hard,
see the
damn
curve.
it.
If you play them in order, you can actually see me getting better. I hope getting better at what I'm doing. Yeah.
I mean, I saw the difference in it between like Please and Please Follow. I was like, he's trying a lot more stuff in the game. It's also 3 times the length. It's like, how do you get it to where you want to make the game a certain length where you're like, this is a good length? Like, because I know that 9 minutes is short, but what about something that's short made it appealing to you to do that?
I my absolutely honest answer to that would be because I don't care.
I mean,
I
that's pretty
just
honest.
I do the game that I want to do, and right now I want to do short games. I guess I have ideas for longer games, but it's all dependent on, as I said, what I can do and what I'm willing to do. Because I, like a lot of creative minds, I'm really eager to jump on the next new shiny thing in my brain, the new idea, and it's really hard to keep me nailed in one place and working on one thing for so long, because eventually you get bored of that. So, and that's the problem, like with working only like by myself. It's just that there's no one to answer to. So it's kind of like when you're bored and you want to work on something else. So it's not that I cut my game shorts, but I deliberately don't overscope because I know I'll be bored by the end. But for example, like, yeah, Please Follow, which is a good example, is a game where you have a multitude of environments. So it keeps jumping to another place, and that's maybe how my brain works. Like, I had to keep working on new ideas and new environments inside the same one project to keep myself from being bored from it.
I would say that with a lot of the itch games that are out there, it's almost like this. It's got this 80s punk era DIY thing going on with it, where people were just like, I'm just gonna make something and I'm just gonna see if it works. And it's really cool to see this huge community of people making stuff that is just so against the grain of slap the mic against the grain of like what you normally see. There's also a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? There's a lot of furry games on itch, I've noticed. Um,
Well, there's a lot of everything. Like
yeah.
as we said, the bundle, the racial justice and equality bundle, Black Lives Matter. By the way,
Yes.
just
Yes.
putting this out there.
Yes.
So this bundle contained like 1,704 games in total by the end, and there's tabletop RPGs. Like, you download the game, and all there is like just a PDF to print and play with friends. It's like, it's not even like a video game. So like Itch does all of that. it also has like management tools you can download, or assets for Unreal, Unity, you name it. It has a lot of stuff. So it's not only games. I don't know where I'm going with this. What was the question again?
I was just saying that it's a very vast community. So yeah, I was saying like there's like furry games, but
Yeah.
like there's a
Oh
there's a
yeah,
bunch
yeah.
of porn games on Steam now. Like anything, I'm glad that people have something like a community that they can go to and be like, hey, there's people that are making things that I like.
But that's the idea. I like the idea of adult games not being porn games. Like the idea of a game that is targeted to like an adult audience that goes, maybe tonight I don't want to play a power fantasy where I save the universe again. Maybe I want to explore my own anxieties and my own like concerns, and that's
Like I don't
you're right there.
no, I was like I was saying like I don't want to be a hero. I want to be severely depressed right now. I mean,
Well,
but there's a
it's
place
not
for that
necessarily
though.
yeah, that's the thing. It's not necessarily being depressed, but it's like feel that somebody else is reaching out and like pouring the same energy you're pouring every day. Like it's, let's take for example one of my games, Spectacle, which is people call it spectacle, but it's in the title. It's you need to pronounce it a la French, so it's Spectacle. See if I may set it on record.
Yes.
So for that game, it's about the fear of dying and how do you cope with that and how do you avoid thinking about that. And one of the many ways to avoid thinking about that is substance abuse and or sex, and that's what the game kind of is about. So and that's not, so it's an adult game, but it's not porn, but it's a concern that like, maybe a 13-year-old won't understand at all. The 13-year-old will just say, hey, the walls are made of flesh, it's scary, the music is woo, and then that's it. But then hopefully an older gamer would play that and say, well, yeah, I'm afraid of that too. I'm afraid of not the monster in the corridor, but I'm afraid of what I'll become like in 20, 30 years.
Yeah, because there was a game that a teacher of mine showed me back when I had it was a video games as art class, and he was telling me that it's a game where you just walk to the right, but as you're walking to the right, different things start happening in your life, and he started talking about the fears of his own life, where
Yes.
he's afraid of growing old and he's afraid of like what is he going to leave behind, and it's so weird to see someone that's like an adult figure in your life talk about their own fears because you see them as like these almost like gods, like all these people, they have everything figured out, and then when you get older you're like they didn't know what the fuck they were doing either.
That's when Static X is singing "Kill Your Idols." I mean, it's probably about anal sex as it usually is with Static X, but it's if you take just the slogan "Kill Your Idols," that's what it's about. It's like take the people that you hold to the highest esteem in your mind and not break them down just to you know push them down a few notches, but it's just that they're people and they're going through like stuff that they're not speaking about, and that's everybody has to deal with that. Have you ever thought of the eventual death of your own parents, for example? Like it's something it's absolutely crazy to
Yeah.
think about. And for some people that the people that already had their parents are already gone. I'm sorry. I'm lucky enough to still have my two parents, but it's like what, when, how? And that's a weird, scary thing. And
It
am I ready for
is.
this? Nobody
It's
is ready for that. It's just gonna happen, and you're gonna have to deal with that. And can we make a game about this? We probably can. Did I make a game about that? I did.
because I actually lost my mom a couple of years ago, and I've noticed that there are people that make games about for one, people that are dealing with cancer. There's a kids game about teaching you about cancer and like how to deal with it, and then there's also like more adult oriented where it's someone living with someone that just passed or like someone that passed away from cancer and they're dealing with that, and I definitely think that it has a place though, because I know that people think there's all these like taboo things, like oh, don't make a game where you're talking about death or things like that. But a lot of people use video games as like a coping mechanism to not think about the things that they're dealing with. But if they can play something that they have firsthand experience and it helps them cope better with it, I think that there is a place for that. This is a very depressing episode.
I'm not making happy. I don't make happy games. I don't make depressing games either. I think. I hope. But well, maybe my first one is very depressing. But yeah, that's the idea that games only exist as entertainment, as like a way of isolating yourself from the noise of the world, is certainly a point of view, but it's not the only one. And if you are like a gamer that goes like uh, to hell with those walking simulators and everything, it's like you are cutting yourself off from like a lot of experiences, a lot of that experiences that might be positive to you. And it's kind of sad to see that closed-mindedness at work sometimes. It's just
Yeah,
yeah.
if you would have told me like 10-year-old me or something like, hey, you're gonna love a game where you're walking around an old house trying to find where your parents are or something, I've been like, no, that doesn't make sense. But I ended up enjoying games like Gone Home and Firewatch and stuff where it's the way that I try to describe to people is it's almost like an interactive novel. Like you're living in the world, but it's not like a it's not constant action or anything. I mean, there's some action in Firewatch and stuff, but it's not. That's not the point of the game. It's not like all the action bits. It's about like the actual story that it's trying to tell. And I don't think it could exist in any other kind of medium like that.
Yeah, because when we talk about like games as escapism is mostly from my point of view, it's mostly like violent games, like maybe puzzle games and stuff like that, maybe casual games, but it's always like Call of Duty versus Gone Home. It's never like anything. It's always the non-subtle stuff that gets pitched one against the other. And if your way of escaping reality is playing like a shooter game, then your way of controlling your own anxieties about the world is to shutting them up with violence. It's to kill your opponent so he doesn't have like a space to talk. You don't have like physical confrontation is the last resort of anybody ever. So if your way of feeling safe about the world and not thinking about it is to kill everything, just work your shit out. That's all I can say. It's just there's stuff out there to help you cope with it, and it's hard stuff, but it's out there. You can get it. Like games, like different games with different subjects that can just open your eyes to the world.
Are there any games on itch or even Steam and stuff too that you felt like should get more attention drawn to it? Like what games out there that you felt like really spoke to you?
Um, I might be time to reveal that I have a really super bad memory about like facts and names. So that's a bit of that. One of the things, Ghost Lake from Kitty Horror Show. I named her. I named her before, but Ghost Lake is from the what's the name of they she does compilations of games on itch, so it's like haunted houses, I think. And like it's volume 3, there's a Ghost Lake. It's a game about like you just drive a car around a town that has capped over as it is in the narrative, so you can't enter any of the houses, but you just drive around and you just like visit memories of places and stuff that has happened there. And it it's one of the games that it spoke to me like the most, as I do not have the same experience as Kitty Horror Show. My life is very different and is very privileged. But at some point, just like the little vignettes of just hanging around like past midnight at the local gas station, just smoking a cigarette under the neon light and just looking at the city. And city's boring, you hate it, but you're still there because you feel safe in that boringness. That is something that is sticking to me. Like still, I talk about it. And it's like, and it's maybe nothing because I've been building up this games can change your life, open up, and then I talk about this stupidest and the blandest thing, but it's also that, like the games that make you feel just you're somewhere, and you're somewhere that you enjoy. And
I remember playing it's like right when I was getting into like more indie side of games. I think the first one that was like considered like the indie game was Braid on the 360, which is like I felt like that was like all right, people are gonna really start paying attention to
it
indie
is
games now. That was like the
15
one.
more years ago.
Yeah,
Been a while. It's been a while.
it feels for it was like back in like I think it was like 2006 2007, but there was another game that was kind of being talked about, and I felt like a super hipster gamer kid playing this one. It was a game called I believe it was called Proteus, where you didn't really do
Yes,
anything in the game. You were just kind of like skating along, but it was so relaxing. It was so
it's a
nice.
yeah, it's a musical landscape. You just walk around like islands and just a landscape, and then you touch things that make music.
I'm
And
glad someone else
eventually,
played this game because I felt like I was going
yeah, yeah,
crazy.
yeah. No. It's yeah, it's one of the first few games that I started playing like back in the day as well. That made me realize that games could be something else than the violent games. Because I was enjoying like one of my favorite like 8-bit games ever is Deja Vu on the NES. It's like a point and click detective adventure because the music was great, the ambience is great, and there's mostly not a lot happening in it. It's like you're walking in the middle of the night trying to clear your name of a crime you didn't commit, and you have like one night to do that, and that's all. And that I enjoyed that, and I was like, why games aren't like that? But that's not an idea that I voiced very clearly in my head when I was young. That was just games could be like something else than just Contra and shooting and everything. And then one day I read an article like the upcoming game at that time, Gone Home. It was like, hey, a bunch of devs from can't remember which big studio, like they're doing their own thing now. They're working on a game that they call like non-violent. There's no violence. You just walk around someplace, and that was shocking to a lot of people. And that's around the time like Dear Esther as well came out, and the walking simulator name that was
Yeah,
born in the public consciousness, and it was a derided thing to have a walking simulator. But I was like, for the first time, I felt like I enjoy that. Heck, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to. That's where I want to be. I play my favorite parts when playing Red Dead Redemption's. Just with your horse riding in the sunset, and that's a happy place. That's not when I shoot people in the face or do like ultra violent finish kills and stuff like that. It's just when I'm somewhere and I enjoy it. And video games for me, and the way I make games as well, is I make places where I hope you enjoy being.
well, in the horror game, it's like,
Yeah,
oh, this is
yeah.
terrifying
It's
to be in.
no, but I mean, it's kind of like, for example, we talked about Please Follow, the last sequence of Please Follow, like the very end, the last place you are in the game. I wanted that to be a very peaceful place, and I hope I made that. I realized this idea and I communicated it because it's you see a lot of stuff in Please Follow, and then at the end you're supposed to be like, that's it, it's over. You can just chill, like drop your guard. It's fine. It's done. And that's the kind of, and you need to build up to that. You need to build up to like some sort of tension, and then eventually give that release. And that release was just the birds singing and the subtle light in the room. And it's like, well, there you go. There's your reward for going through and seeing all those things.
No more
So
cosmic horror. Now peace.
yep, no more cosmic horror. But yeah, that's so. Yeah, that's the feeling of being somewhere is the first thing that I work on when I work on a video game. It's, the
Like,
place is more important than mechanics for me.
yeah. Well, so something I've noticed too with a lot of the indie horror games is that you almost can't know anything about the game going into it. It has to be a mystery. So I feel like anytime any game gains any traction, like, oh my god, this game's so scary, then it's like, well, I already know going into it that's gonna be this experience. Like I went into I didn't even know anything about Please or Please Follow. I just saw that it looked cool. And then going into it just completely blind was I thought it was amazing because I mean I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if something was going to jump out at me at some point. I didn't know if the game was going to just go bananas. I mean, it does, but like, the whole mystery of it, I feel like is really part of that, the horror experience. Um, do you feel like if you don't maintain that like mystery, like that you could lose out on horror games, or do you feel like you can still know what it is and still be spooked by the game?
It's a really interesting question because it really feeds into a feeling that I really enjoy, which is sorry. uh, I don't know how many people can relate to that. The younger you are, I guess, the less you can. But when television didn't come with like an integrated like TV guide, you could just push a button and just see and then you didn't have like a 700 channels to flip through. You just had like the 4 5 7 channels, and
That's
then
what I had,
whatever was
6.
playing. Yeah, whatever's playing is what you get to see tonight, and maybe if you enjoy it, if you just catch the last half of a movie, then you go, that's awesome, I want to watch the first half of it. Maybe it's was the last time it was ever playing on that television channel, and maybe you're not gonna see it again. Or and that idea of you don't know what you're gonna get, and you don't know if you're gonna enjoy it, and if you enjoy it, maybe it's gonna be lost forever after that. It's an idea that is very near and dear to my imagination and my idea. And that's I don't want to be like in promotion mode, but it's like a spectacle. My game that I talked about earlier is about that. It's about watching television like at 2 a.m. and is it real? What you're seeing on TV, is it real? What are you gonna be able to see it again? Is it just a passing TV show, just weird? And is it really the TV show you watch, or is it like the remembrance of the TV show, the weird show that you saw? And so games can benefit from that. From you don't know what you're gonna get, but the idea is, and I am preparing to get into like bigger marketplaces because I'm selling my games on Itch and Game Jolt right now, and we are all of us at the Haunted PS1 are starting slowly to infiltrate Steam and to put our games on Steam, and that is a completely different beast because you can't really go the mysterious route on Steam because gamers, well, yeah, players and gamers, let's go with that distinction. Gamers want to know. They want to know what they're going to get, and that is a very specific kind of. There's actual like research done on how like consumers scan a Steam page, and they go for this information, this, and it's like if there's too much mystery, if the trailer is just a mood trailer and not like a gameplay trailer, they're not your game. And it's like, well, do I need to start making gamey games to get into that market? Probably. Am I going to lose, as your question is hinting at? Am I going to lose something from that transition? Most probably. But those old games are still going to be there, and then it all depends on the way you discover them. If you discover them on Steam, chances are you're going to have a bullet point list of everything that's happening, and it's a very technical thing. And if you discover a game on Itch, some games don't even have descriptions. Some games are just, that's my game. There's no screenshot, nothing, just the file size. And it's like, well, from the file size, I can infer that it's probably just a TXT file, or it's just smallest game, or it's a 2D game or a 3D game. But that's all you get until you download it and you try it. And I personally think that's a beautiful thing. you give it a shot. And a lot of the game, not most, but a lot of the games on itch are free. Like pay what you want. So also tip your game dev. That's a message I'm all about. If you download a game and it's free, there's no shame in going back to that store page and like tipping, like giving a dollar for a game you enjoyed, and that's a very good thing to do.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry.
No, it's. I was about to say, like, I feel like a lot of people, like in media in general, they're just like, especially during with the quarantine and all that stuff. I mean, it's going to date the episode. Who knows? You know, a year from now, maybe we're in nuclear fallout, and this is the last remaining thing that we'll ever see of humanity again. But you notice that a lot of people just don't care about paying for media at all, but they want it to be the top quality, but they don't want to pay anything for it. Or if they have to pay, it's a very tiny amount. And it's so weird to think about where no one wants to pay for a movie. Like, who's bought a movie in the past like 10 years because of streaming? Like, you'll go into a thrift store and they just have a mountain of DVDs because nobody wants them. So it's just strange to me that no one wants to pay for any media at all.
Well, it's a difficult discussion, I think, because everybody's out for your money. Like everybody wants your money all the time, forever. That is the baseline of our the capitalist society. It's just you have a little money, everybody wants it. So if you want to survive into that, you need to cut corners. And to stop paying for stuff is a very good corner to cut, I guess. And then when you have options to not pay for something, you won't. And I understand that. But you need to understand the consequences of doing that. Like there was this probably manipulated like article that made the rounds on social media saying like, what are the top 5 least needed like jobs?
I saw that. Yeah.
And then top number 1 was artists. And it's like, I'm sorry, but if you remove artists from your society, you're going to get bored a lot. And
they had to pay an artist for that article. Like, how can you tell me that wasn't needed? What?
So it's like, people think artists, maybe they have like this preconceived notion of like this boring man drawing something off a cliff, and it's like, yeah, I'm deep. And no, it's like artists. Everybody can do like a little something and consider themselves an artist, and it's fine. And you do an effort, and then you learn your craft. You need to be paid for that. You need to be compensated for that, and that's I think very natural. Again, I'm in a position of privilege somewhat, as in I can pay for my entertainment. I choose to pay most for my entertainment. When I play a game, I enjoy it, I go back and I pay for it, and I try to give a little bit more. Like I figure like a price for what I played, and I was like, yeah, that's the price. Then I add $1, and it's like, yeah, it burns a little bit, but I'll just go for the $1 more, just to make sure that this creator gets that little that little warm feeling inside. So, and it's a question of habit. It's like music is free now. That's just the thing. Music is free. That's all. That's all. Yeah. Music is free. I'm sorry. The music industry lost that fight. Music is free. It's unfortunate. It's disgusting, but it is what it is. You can pay. You can go on Bandcamp. You can go. You can pay your artist directly. You can buy merch. It's what I do. I discover an artist I enjoy. I go and buy their merch, even if it's complicated. I recently bought like a T-shirt for Sidewalks and Skeletons, which is like a witch house outfit I really enjoy. And they were selling shirts, and you needed to like contact like a private email. That was super sketchy, but I did it. I took the step, like took the risk, because I really want to encourage that person, and so I did. So it's just a question of habit and being able to put the money down. But yeah, like mostly. But my message still stands. It's like you should take the habit of tipping your favorite creators. That's for sure.
If you enjoy something enough, you should donate money to it.
Yeah,
So
that's even more significant when there's no price tag attached to the thing, and you still pay for it. Like that means that much to it. Like I've my games are now all most of them are all like paid. You need to pay to play them now, but when they first released they were free. And so I struggled with the idea of asking for money for it, but it's a very lively discussion even today amongst all the devs. It's like, you pay, should you not pay, how much, and should my first game be free so I can get a name out? And people are like, no, you should always sell. And so there's really the whole spectrum of opinions is right there. But I started off free, then I decided to make my games paid, and then when I released my latest title is a demo for something, and there are people paying for that demo, and it's like it's free. It is actually free. It's the only game that I'm distributing that is free out there, and there's still people tipping, and it's like that means so much, and you'll never see that. Of course, you're in front of your computer, you click a button, and it sends money. So and for you, that's your end of the transaction. But on the other end, I guarantee you, the creator sees that amount, small amount, nobody cares, $1.50, but it goes straight to the heart. That's just it. That's me reaching out to the void, and the void pitching a little bit of change, and it's like, thank you, void, that's great. And it is actually very great.
I can relate to that in a little bit because of doing this podcast for. It's really hard to say like when exactly I started. I think it's been like 7 years or so, but anytime I see like a view, a listen, anything, it feels good, you know. And then when I see like
Absolutely.
the watched hours thing go from 3 hours to 5 hours or something, like people are coming around and maybe they're checking out other videos too. So I see that stuff every single day because I'm like, am I gonna see? Is anyone gonna check it out? Because my main thing is I just hope someone checks out what I'm doing. I'm not gonna make any money doing a. I've actually lost a lot of money, not a lot, like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, I probably lost maybe close to like 2 grand doing the podcast for so long. But that's just because of doing like RSS RSS feeds and things like that, like paying $15 a month or whatever, just to have something to where everyone can check it out, be on all these different platforms and things. But yeah, I've made $0 doing this.
But it pays in different ways. Like
It feels good
that,
to do something.
this idea of I'm doing this for whatever, and the measure is always for me. It's always been, if there's more people that play my game than people I actually know in real life, then that means like for sure 100% I've reached out of my own like network, and there are people I have no idea who they are, and they've played my stuff, and maybe they've enjoyed it, and some of them leave comments, and it's like, okay, I get the idea of if you've enjoyed it or not. But when you start reaching out to pure strangers, it's amazing. Like that feeling is, and I encourage people, like creative people, to just do something and finish something just so you get that feeling, because that is what that's what's fueling me. That's what should be fueling you as well. Like reaching out, like touching people through your work. That's great.
I'm feeling you now, viewers. You know, I joke about that, but there are people that are actually making like I can see that being like the next thing in gaming is feeling the game. Could you imagine sticking your hand into something, and if you're in like you're playing BioShock and you can feel the rusty walls and the glass dripping with
Oh,
water and things, like
some
that would
people
be
are working
insane.
hard on that. Like it's called haptic feedback, and it's yeah. When you
Sounds terrifying.
Well, the first applications I've seen of it, it's like you wear a vest, and then when you play like a game, and then you get shot somewhere, there's a little pop. It's not painful, but it's like it's sensory information, right? It's just you got popped in the shoulder, boy, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's what you get. And then eventually, I guess, as usual, porn will pick up the technology and push it forward, and then we'll get it back with added like quality to it.
I mean, that's why virtual reality is like picking up traction. I feel like, I mean, you can get games
because
like
porn
Half-Life
picked it
Alex
up.
and
Yeah.
stuff too, where people are
DVD
making,
picked up
yeah.
back in the day because porn picked it up, and that's yeah.
Same with VHS. We almost would be primarily a Betamax world if we didn't have.
So yeah, so if porn is interested in picking up haptic feedback, we'll get something on it. If not, I wouldn't put my money there.
I've seen the thing is though, like I've seen things about that where people are trying to make this this reality of where you can have what feels like sex. Can I say sex on YouTube? Am I gonna? I don't even get monetized. Like I don't even know that. You know what? I feel like that's my make it moment where I get a video taken down because I said sex.
No, I think
That's my moment. But yeah, just having this whole experience thing where you simulate sex, and it's like, what? That's so crazy. And people are like, I would never try that. But I guarantee you, every single person like, you know what? I actually kind of want to see what happens with this. Is it real? Who knows? But
it's like it's if it happens, there's only one way it'll happen, and it's gonna be like this isolating, strange activity that's gonna worsen the world, I think. And if it has to happen, it's gonna happen that exact way. It's gonna be a Black Mirror episode, and that's all there is to it. It's like when you look at kids and it's like kids are always on their phone and da, da, da. If you went back in time and put the same phones in the hands of the same people, they would end up doing the exact same thing.
yeah,
Like humans have been craving for the same things like forever, and nothing's going to change that. You just change the tools and facilitate the reaching out to that feeling, and it's not cool. Like so yeah, so like haptic porn is going to ruin the world. That is absolute for sure, and I feel like it's inevitable. So
I'm gonna
yeah.
get a comment a year later. By the way, haptic porn's pretty cool, man. I love it.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Yes.
Honestly, in my mind, it's like a to each their own. If this is something, if it's not harming anyone, and if this is something that someone is just genuinely enjoying, I'm not gonna be the guy to take it away from them. I'm gonna let anybody do whatever they want.
It's harming. It's harming people in other ways, as in subtle, small ways. It's like there's always like this the right, like the positive case where you go like, well, let's say like disabled people would probably get the benefit from that, because it's like yeah, because human contact, like physical contact, is a part of being a balanced, healthy, like thinking human being. And yeah, some of those peoples are prevented from doing that for physical reasons or other. And so yeah, there's a positive application for that. But I don't know why I'm talking so much about that. It's not. I make games. Buy my games. Don't buy haptic porn, please.
Overall, we would all have to say that
Yeah.
you should go onto Itch and you should play Will's games, because Will's games are awesome, and they're not porn. Though having a porn game is not bad either. To each their own. And
it is. I've considered very openly, like having like a secret account where I would make a porn game just to see
if it's
will
going to do
probably better. Yeah, it's gonna probably outsell everything I do, and it's like that's gonna be a very depressing moment.
I
I
have a friend who does art, and he makes hentai, and he says the most money he's made on anything.
Yeah,
people want some weird stuff.
That sexual energy is not going away. Like people have that, and if you live in a society that wants to hide it and suppress it and repress it, it's not going to work. Like the energy is still there, and people are going to pay for it. Yeah. So your friend drawing and making commissions for porn drawings, it's and it's sure they can live off their art. So it's like, who's the real winner here?
Yeah. Like someone wants to pay him $200 to have a chick that looks like a lamp. Sure. Why?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
He was like,
Whatever floats your boat. But
he was like, you're never gonna guess what I'm making. You're right. I'm probably not. But so yeah, anybody out there, if you want to check, I know this has been such a wildly, I enjoyed it. I know that some people are gonna look at this and go like, wow, this got really like long in the tooth here, but I enjoyed talking about just the random things that come up because
yeah,
quarantine's very lonely, so you don't
yeah,
really have a
yeah.
lot of people to talk to about things.
That energy is not going anywhere. That's what I say.
So if anyone out there wants to check out Will's stuff, is it under Somewhat Software or?
Yes, you can go to somewhat.itch.io and you'll find my games right there.
And you can pay whatever
Or you
want.
can go somewhatsoftware.com, which is a website that I pay for. It's a .com that I pay for, and I don't know why. So please visit my website.
He saw it go from 20 to 30 hits. Ooh.
Ooh. Yeah.
That's how I feel when I put up an episode. It's like I went from 1 view to 2. Yay. Cool. And then it goes into nothing. It's like, okay, whatever. But yeah, so I'll put a link in the description for all of his games if you want to check them out. I highly recommend them. If you missed out on the bundle that Itch was doing, I mean, they were heavily promoting that, so I don't know how you missed it, but you can find all the games that were in that bundle. A lot of cool stuff. And maybe you already bought the bundle and you didn't even realize the game was in there because there's 1,000 fucking games in it.
True.
So, I mean, scour through the bundle. There's so many crazy games out there that people just don't even realize exist. And please follow is awesome. And so are the other games that he's made as well. So pay him money too if you like if you didn't like it, I mean still just pay.
No, this one, yeah, my games require, but you can ask for a refund. I mean, if you want to steal money from these hands, go ahead.
Damn these hands. All they know is to take. All right, so here's some shameless self-plug now. If you liked any of these episodes, I do see if you listen to them or watch them or whatever, YouTube informs me that nobody watches my videos, so thank you for anyone that does watch the video. It means a lot to me. And I know that these can be long, but podcasts are long. It's not 4 hours long, so at least you have that to go off of. So thank you anyone out there who is checking out the series. Remember to subscribe. I'm almost at 100. I feel like that's an accomplishment in its own.
It is. It absolutely is. Yes.
I recently just started doing videos, so there's only like 4 or 5 videos. The rest of them are just audio based, but a lot of times I feel like people just put things on in the background, so that's what I just assume that a lot of people would do. So maybe you don't want to look at my face. You can also find everything on SoundCloud and Google Play and iTunes and whatever you find your podcast through. Joe's Crab Shack maybe is on there. Who knows? Maybe they got it on the jukebox. Do they have a jukebox? I've never been there. All right. Thank you so much, everybody out there, for watching, listening. William, thank you so much for coming on. And yeah, good luck, everybody out there. Times are weird.
Yes. Stay safe.
Stay safe. Don't get into trouble.